over a decade, he's made content that you've chimed into. Trey Strongs, along with Rob from CLTV, made the CLTV channel what it is today. As we dive into what this plant does for Trey and how it has affected his life, why don't you join us as we stay rooted and stay elevated? Thanks, everybody. Welcome back to Organically Blunt. I'm Jay Blaze, your host, if you don't already know. And I have the pleasure and the opportunity this evening to speak with what I consider an OG in this industry, because I grew up with this plant and learning so much about it from you guys. I can't thank you guys enough. We got Trey Strongs here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. So, I just kind of want to dive into your story and kind of who you are and how this plant has influenced your life. And I kind of want to take it back to the moment you discovered cannabis and kind of hear how you found it, how you came across it, and what that experience was for you.
Well, funny enough, I get asked sometimes, like, when I first, it seems like everybody remembers their first time smoking weed. I think I've been smoking weed so long, I forgot what that exact moment was.
Yeah.
But it also was like my first smoking or my first consumption interaction was more of a like, oh man, we got it. All right, let's do it. And so it was like a quickie almost, But I would say like my true depth with the plant came when I decided that I didn't want to just accept whatever was in a little knot bag of a corner sandwich bag of, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just some brick, And and it was my first time kind of planting a seed more or a bean more or less and watching it grow. That was like my real enthrallment with it was like, whoa, like this is better than any science class type of thing. So that was like, I guess for me, the memorative moment with the plant, and seeing the plant
Absolutely.
do its thing. That like I feel like I feel like everybody should experience that. If you've ever picked up a bag, you should try and grow a plant just so you can really understand like all that it takes to produce, what you're used to seeing.
Absolutely. There's a lot of labor that goes into them fruits. And,
Oh, yeah.
it amazes me every season what I do by myself. Last year I did, oh, I think it was near 38 plants myself, and these were outdoor. And I harvested and trimmed and did all that by myself. And I told myself I'm not doing that this year. That was way too much work.
Yeah, it's a lot, man. It's a lot to dedicate, anywhere from 6 to 9 months, dependent on a single
Right.
living thing, or multiple, which is usually the game. And see it through one phase, bring it to another, just to cultivate it. And in that is a whole process. And I often say like the slept on process, because you can spend months with the plant and then botch it at the very end
Right.
between,
Absolutely.
cutting, curing, drying, or cutting, drying, curing. Um, so it's different every time. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of the beauty for me is like with every harvest comes something different to like savor, something different to like aspire to. And you know, there's something in the synergy for me again from the very first moment that I put a bean in the ground and watched a plant grow of putting in or getting out what you put in. I haven't found something as relative to that as growing that this plant.
Absolutely. And that gets me into my next question I have for you. You found a love for growing it because you enjoyed consuming it essentially, and you
Mm.
wanted that quality at a lot less cost to you. The cost was labor instead of a monetary exchange. So, basically, my question for you is, when did the content making come along for you? And like, how did you and Rob meet? And like, I guess kind of take us through the wormholes there that basically, I bet a lot has changed in the past decade just in how you guys have done your content.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I went from grabbing Nick Sachs to being the one with him, and then deciding that okay, I want better quality. Well, if I want better quality, then he's gonna want better quality. How do we produce that? Being in the ground, um, and really, like when I first put the bean in the ground, I was kind of young, and so there was a lapse in time between that and like actually getting off the ground. But once I was actually moving with some gas in the tank, you know, it's almost like smoke signals. I started having plants and I started gaining gromies. They weren't necessarily gromies at the time, but the grower community, because like at the time, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, there wasn't this information out there. There was three
Right.
books by Jorge and Ed and maybe two other people, and reading ain't never been really my thing. And not
Right.
that I can't, it's not how I absorb information. So, you
Yep.
know, again, screenshot back to YouTube 10 years ago, completely different topography.
Absolutely.
And it was just long form flip phone content. All right, guys. Well, what we're gonna do is da da da, sits it down, goes and makes the sandwich, comes back. I'm like, bro, this is like an hour and 40-minute video. I need 2 minutes of the actual information in here. I don't know where we're losing this and that. So I think that was the original concept for us,
Yep.
as far as me and Rob. Now, a lot of people know me and Rob. CLTV actually started with 6 people, and he
Holy
tells the
shit. I
story
didn't know that.
probably better than me. But yeah, 6 different people, and I was just supposed to be like the weatherman.
Okay.
I was just supposed to be like, and now throwing it over to Chef Trey for the medical minute. Because I had the culinary background,
Yep.
and um, I'm jumping around, but finding my grower community let was through uh the grocery store, the hydro store, RIP. And that's where me and Rob met.
Oh,
he was
wow.
a, he was a custy.
Okay.
Him and his dad, and we just ran into each other. And the first time I met him, he he was he was he was producing music, I believe. He was doing
Wow.
something with music, and but he had a business card, and he was just very on his stuff for at that time and everything else. And so, if nothing else, if we never did anything else past that, I was like, you know what, kudos to him. He's a guy, some ambition, and he's putting it out there. Like that's cool. That's cool to see. Um, and then he approached me about, like I say, being the weatherman. And after the first episode with 6 people, it was really like 4 people, like between him, the other people on camera, and then me off to the side, right? And after that episode, it was, well, after about 3 episodes, it was about just me and him left as far as who was interested in producing the content, And at the time, he didn't even want to be on camera,
Wow.
And I was kind of like, I don't give a fuck, I'm already at the grocery store, you know what I mean? Like, we can not say tomato plants over here, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I was like, whatever, bro. Like, people need to know this. People need to know if they are
Absolutely.
in any sort of community where they either a have access to uh, a medicine at the time because we were both medical card holders, patients ourselves, and both of our mothers were our patients.
Wow.
Um, and so, like, my whole premise just really hasn't changed on this. Is the more information you have, the more knowledge you have about anything, the better off you're going to be. And at the time, again, you didn't have this information about growing. You didn't have this information about consumption. You didn't have the saturation to be able to consume as rapidly as you are now. So it was
Right.
just you went from again nickel sacks and happy to get what you can get for your money to the caregiver era and all that that entailed, product and otherwise. And then if you took on the challenge of growing it yourself, because that was really the only way to have access, and that wasn't really easy, because a lot of people like to consume, not everybody likes to grow, because
Right.
like you said, it takes a lot, even if you let the sun do half of it.
Yep.
Um, so it just became, and it still is for me, educate, educate, educate. And I'm by no means a teacher, I'm by no means an expert, but I've been living this lifestyle for a long time. And so whatever experience, whatever R&D I've already done that I can transcend down to whoever may be listening, like to better their experience with cannabis, to advocate for the plant, like that's always what I'm about, probably until the day that I die.
Absolutely. So, that relates me to my next question, though. We know you're a chef. A lot of us do. For the people that don't know you are, that's your main passion, correct?
That's what everybody says. I you know, it came time for me to graduate, and everybody's like, "What are you doing? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?" And I'm over there like, you know what I mean? like, like you know, and cooking made sense at the time. You know what I mean? Cooking is definitely a
Absolutely.
passion of mine, but I'm huge on the creative aspect. If the
Okay.
creative aspects gets taken to a very regimented situation, I become disenchanted. And I never want to lose my passion for cooking in that way. And I've known quite a few buddies who get on the line and they die on the line as far as like the chef world is concerned. I mean, it's bad on your
Sure.
back, it's bad on your knees. It's just tough unless you love it. I don't love it like that. I love to create flavor. And
Sure.
I what I loved about melding the two and why Rob saw me as the Medable Minute guy was, to this day I easily have 60 plus recipes out there, which in the grand scheme of 5 years is probably more than that. But
Wow.
recipes out there for people to consume. Now, if you're talking like all the events and stuff that we've done up until this point, it goes into the hundreds easily. But
Holy cow.
um the thing about food I love is that it's 2025. We still don't have time travel. We still don't look like George Jetson. We still don't have all the cool shit that we thought we would have by now. You know what I mean?
Right.
But what you can do with a plate of food or sharing a meal with somebody is you can transcend time. You can bring somebody back to a memory. You can create a memory all in one situation. And so that's a beautiful thing that was my initial spark of wanting to be a chef, you know? So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, my cousin's a chef too. He lives in Kentucky, but he's tribal. He went through a tribal college and went to culinary school, and it's pretty interesting some of the stuff you guys do. Like he went into cakes and pastries and stuff like
Oh,
that, and some of the stuff he does with that, it just blows my mind.
yeah. Baking's a whole different thing. I always put the disclaimer I am not a baker.
Okay.
Bakers and chefs are two different things. And sometimes they coexist in the same person, but that's not me.
Right. Yep.
Baking, I had to take twice actually in culinary school because it was so numerically heavy.
Okay.
And math has never been my strong suit.
Yeah, mine
I
neither.
also like to say weed taught me math between breaking it down, growing it, dosing out the newts for it. Like all that's a science and the math all in there. And that resonated with me. Why? Because it was something I was passionate about. So I was willing to learn the variables, you know. But if you just put algebra in front of me, whew, you know what I mean? I'm not,
Hey,
that's
I
not
ain't gonna
for me.
lie. I failed algebra and I failed geometry. So like we were the bad kids. We went to a small school. I had a graduating class of 80 people and only 72 people made it out. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, and long story short, a lot of overdose, a lot of drinking and driving, car accidents, people were into that. But it it was a small town, so I can relate to, a lot of what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were talking about it a little beforehand. I'm not gonna, drop any bombs. But again, learning is a variant for everybody, and so just
Yep,
because you didn't learn one thing one way doesn't mean you can't absorb it in another way. You know.
absolutely.
So weed's been that for me, and weed's taught me a lot, man. Like I will never. That's why I say I'll be dedicated to this plant to the day that I die because it's given me so much between relief as a patient, being able to give relief to my patients, um,
Absolutely.
teaching me patience, teaching me math, um, you know, putting me in a position where I'm able to talk to cool people like you, being able to share the love of the plant with all these lovely people in chat here and like the community across the board. Um, man, when my wife married me, she knew, I say this all the time, she knew she was kind of getting into a three-way relationship. So she already knew it was me and Mary Jane, and she was just marrying us, you know what I mean? And she's
Yep,
not a consumer, but she completely understands and accepts, my lifestyle and all that that means. So,
definitely. So you got to go to MJ BizCon. I mean, how was that for an experience? I'm still waiting to get that experience at least once in my life.
yeah, it's something, man. Vegas is a trip.
Never been there.
um It's a trip. I had never been either, and I was like, "Woo, Vegas!" And then I was like, "Oh, Vegas!" like, like I don't.
Okay.
I'm not gonna. I don't. I don't want to kill it for you.
Well, I
Um,
know it's expensive, but so you don't got to tell me that. I already
yeah,
know.
it's. I'm like a homebody, bro. I don't like to like go out.
Me
I,
neither.
I'm.
That's my
I'm
problem.
not. I'm not like a. This is gonna sound weird, but a go out and do stuff guy. Like I don't know,
Yep.
like and like Vegas is like there's something to do all the time. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like you can't pick it. But so MJ BizCon, I don't know. It's cool because yeah, it's centered around cannabis, and I heard this year it was a lot better as far as like consumer driven, open to the
sure.
community and stuff like that. Last time I went to BizCon was 2021.
Okay.
Like went into the
Yep.
second year I went just outside because I didn't want to spend $400 on a ticket. And
I
everybody
don't
who
blame you.
is anybody, usually there's been people who just go to Vegas during the time and then just show up outside because that's where everybody's smoking. But I believe this year they had an inclusive smoking spot inside. But that was a thing in 2021. They're like, oh, MJ BizCon, the biggest cannabis expo, blah, blah, blah. But you can't smoke here and you better not bring any weed. So I'm down there with a backpack full of weed. And Rob's like, why'd you bring all the weed? I'm like, I thought this was a weed event. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
shit.
Yeah. That's
I'm like, I'll take a taxi back to the fucking hotel. I don't care. You know what I mean?
right. I
Like,
can relate to that. We just had an event very similar to that. I wrote up, it wasn't a lot, but I wrote up 36, I call them pre rolls, but I wrote up 36 cones for myself for the day for the event. And
mhm.
we expanded out to Illinois. So I've been trying to hit other states around us and see what's going on, kind of trying to get my name out there a little bit. And
Oh yeah.
we went down there, and this guy's like, "Oh, I talked to the governor. He's cool with everything. This is cool. That's cool. We got the permits. We got this." And it's like in this 1800s building up in the upper loft, and
Oh, what?
it was like a dance floor. It was all wood, but he had vendors packed in there, and then he basically opened the doors to the city, and
Mm.
all of a sudden he's like, before it started, he said the same thing: you can't smoke in here. And we're like, man, what kind of event is this? And people are smoking outside, and people are blowing inside, and all of a sudden it just becomes so much inside you can't even see. And all of a sudden the fire
Uh-huh.
department shows up, they shut it down. And then he had another one, and then they shut that one down. And finally, I told my buddy, I'm like, if he has another one, we got to be guaranteed, because if we're driving that far, I don't want to be there for 2 hours and then have to turn around and drive 5 hours home. Like,
Yeah, no shit.
yeah, so it reminds me of the Michigan early days. Like, my first event was not good. Like, I showed up, and a guy was putting it on, and it was like way out Casnovia. And so like
Oh, what?
yeah, like between Muskegon, Michigan,
Yeah,
and Grand Rapids. And it
yep.
was at an apple orchard place, and it got shut down. And I was like, man, this is bunk. I just paid $60 to get in here, and I ain't even been here an hour, and now I'm not getting my money back, and this sucks. So that's how my first
Well, I
experience went.
know. Imagine paying for airfare plus a $400 ticket just to like. I legit thought I was gonna have to go back to the hotel, and I was like, I was pissed. But like, I even said like, fuck it, I'll just stay out here. You guys can go in, and I'll
Right.
just stay out here when you want to smoke. I'll be right here at on this bench. You know. Um, but we ended up being okay. But that I mean that really triggered for me a lot of things, which we already had the events rolling. But it's like, man, I'm so sick of going to these weed events that are
Right.
not weed events.
Yep.
You know, and they're still kind of like that. Like I went to Canacon in Chicago.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Me, Rob, and Wink did actually,
Okay.
and that was a couple years back. But still, again, it was like at an expo center. You know what I mean? Like people were out in the corner of like the front area smoking because you couldn't smoke inside because who's there are people looking for industry people. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, and this isn't, it's, don't, let me not make an umbrella statement, but the majority of the people who have booths there, vendors, whatever have you, at the time
We're
are
metric.
there for industry people,
Yep.
for metric, for scale, for industry grow. And
Right.
but what's cool about the community is now more so we're infiltrating these events. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, we're the ones who want to go to these events. Your average consumer is not going to go to these events, and a lot of these industry brands aren't even necessarily going to pay the money to go talk to other people that would approach them anyway. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
it's it's coming around somewhat, but anything with a con or an expo or what was
Yep.
that one in GR that they did? Oh, that was a Nikan. I'm just like, that's not a weed event. That's a business to business
Yep.
expo. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and I'm just not really interested in that. Like, because I'm not a business. And even if I was, I'm an ancillary business. I'm not, a metric brand. And
Right.
like you could tell pretty much when they're like, oh, when they don't feel like they have a big enough fish on the line, the conversation's kind of like, no, so yeah, you know.
Right. Yeah. And I've gotten used to. I've leaned more towards the grassroots type events. Definitely the more community vibe is what I like. So I got a handful that
Hmm.
I cover with now, and you know I can totally relate. I went to the Nikon, and I was just like, this is kind of like going to the auto show. Like, Okay, you want me at the end
Hmm.
of the day, you want me to spend a bunch of money that I don't have. Okay, yes, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Like I said, man. You could go to Vegas during MJ BizCon, save yourself the ticket on $400 and just stand outside, and because everybody got to walk past that place to even enter it, even if they do have an inside smoke place, So,
yep.
and like Vegas is cool, but the weed is mids. Like
Oh,
it's just, you know what I mean? Like we don't dry doesn't grow good in the desert for whatever reason, you
yep.
know.
That's like my brother
And
lives in South Carolina, and when I went there with a bunch I had rolled up, but I obviously smoked through that the first couple of days, and they're not legal. And I was trying to find it everywhere, and nobody could find it down there. And it was just like, yeah, I don't think I'm coming back here. So like, I'm good.
yeah, yeah. No, it's I just had a homie actually headed out to Vegas next week, and they're like, "Man, where do I find some good?" I was like, "Allegedly, just bring it with you, like
Right.
like just bring it with you.
Yep.
Allegedly, just fucking put it in your goddamn carry on." Because I've come back from Vegas, like, and been like, "Oh, we got a Scooby snack when we got off the plane," like they don't care. You know what I
Wow.
mean? Like you're
Yeah.
going from Michigan to Vegas. You're going from wreck to wreck. Like,
Yep.
and again, I say it a lot. Allegedly,
I think
this
it
is
should be
not
allowed
expectation
on that
advice, but
standpoint. If they're gonna limit it to certain states and you're flying from one recreational area to another, I do. I feel there should be no problem.
yeah, TSA isn't. They're looking for bombs. They're not looking for your little stash. Again, this is my opinion and experience.
Right.
At your own risk, allegedly. But like, if you telling me I'm going for a weekend, I'm not risking Vegas dispo mids. I'm just nope.
Yeah, I don't blame you. So, do you have anything growing currently, or what have you been up to lately? I mean, I know kind of CLTVs kind of you guys kind of kicked it off and did like a little teaser where your guys were coming back, and we haven't seen nothing lately. So, are you guys gonna be doing something? I mean, I'm not to don't give us all the 411, but we'd love to see you guys do something. That would be great.
Yeah, I mean we just dropped a 2024 genetic video. That was kind
Okay.
of me, Rob, and some of the like from the Stash crew. Because
Sure.
he's been going hard with that for the past couple of years, and they're killing it. They have you know a lot of the community that is tuning in to FTS, whether it's on AC Infinity or FTS themselves or whatever. They got the stash
Yep.
blend, so they're doing their thing. CL, you know, so me and Rob met at the grow store. I ran the local grow store here for 12 years, Holland Hydroponic Outlet.
Yep.
We
I
had
went in
four
there once.
locations up and down the west coast of Michigan, essentially. And so I was living the grow store life for more than a decade. Customer service, and everybody coming in with their PM covered leaves, like, what's this? And I'm like, could you walk outside with that? And I'll tell you what it is because
Right.
I don't want to bring it
Right.
at home,
Right.
Um, so we did a lot of growing content.
That's awesome.
And I mean, back and forth, upward, sideways, and backwards. And if we didn't cover it, FTS has covered it. And if they didn't cover it, some member of them did. Like, there's only so many times you can go over the
Right.
differentiations of growing,
Yep.
So, and for me at the time, it was kind of like living it. It was like, bro, I just got done dealing with everybody at the store. You know what I mean? So, um, I've been always more so into the lifestyle thing.
Sure.
Lifestyle side of things, content and stuff. So that being said, you know, I jump on for certain projects,
Sure.
but we have launched like Blunt Brothers, which is like
Yep.
kind of our podcast style stuff. Um, really just, me and him chopping it up because, me and Rob typically have good conversation, whether it's talking shit
Absolutely.
or otherwise. But so we're looking to do something like that. We also got some other things in the works, but I'm gonna keep those under wraps for
Sure.
now. But
Definitely.
I do think once we launch it, the current gromies who are there are going to be super interested, as well as like I think it's going to open us up to a new audience, and I'm very excited for that.
That's awesome. You guys know your craft very well. So, I can't wait to see what you do. That intro to the Blunt Brothers is so I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like you guys did it right, and like it makes you want to see more. Like, come on, okay, I just seen the trailer to a badass movie I want to see at the theater, but it hasn't
Oh, yeah.
came out yet. So like you left us hanging. So like I'm ready for the next one. So I'll be making sure to pay attention. But with your cooking and stuff, my question for you is: I know you do some events on the side and like specialty type events. Do you have anything coming up in the near future?
Um, yeah. So we've been doing elevated social for 5 years. Um, which again, 5 years ago looked a lot different than it does now. But
Absolutely.
uh, and we persevered through COVID. So part of you kind of feels, I don't want to say invincible, but you know what I mean when you're doing something like food and then the world shuts down and then
Yeah.
you still keep going and people love it and they want more of it. It's like, you know, it gives you a reason to keep going. So that being said, last year in September we celebrated 5 years, 60 plus events serving anywhere
Wow.
from 50 to 350, um, and we did a big beach party, and it was amazing. So this year, I said I was going to retire, but there was some backlash on that. There legal got involved. There was a petition. I don't know. Anyway,
Oh wow.
not really. It's just people were like, "What? What do you mean you're retiring?" And I was like, "I'm retired."
Yep.
And then I was like, just kidding. I guess I'm not because everybody's causing an uproar. So, yes, Elevated Socials fourth annual Grill and Chill, July 26th, 2025. Uh, it's one of my favorite events because it's chill, but it's like still that elevated vibe.
Absolutely.
So backyard barbecue style, but with infusion, you know what I mean? And we've grown, ever since we had the first event, it's been experience based. So like not only are you experiencing flavor and elevated dining, but there's, usually a couple of different aspects to the actual event that bring it all together for that like full on experience. Like with September, we had like a puff and paint, and we had a dab competition, dabbing some of the finest live hash rosin in the state, and it was rather epic.
Oh, I
But
can
um,
imagine.
dude, I was like, people were just taking it, dude. It's crazy. But yeah, so Elevator Social Grill and Chill, July 26, 2025. I would just say, be sure you're following on Instagram for now. And even if we get taken down, we'll come back because we just got to persevere. That's kind of what it is, man. I see a lot of people getting messed with out there on the cannabis content tip. And if you make it, you probably should know what I'm talking about already. But you know what I
Absolutely.
mean? They've been going
I,
hard lately, and
oh
I
yeah.
don't imagine that that'll let up. And a lot of people are like all excited because supposedly like some freedom of speech shit changed, but that's freedom of
Yeah.
speech. It's not
I put a
cannabis
video
content.
out on that, and I found out, because I was informed from by Fast Buds, they're like, don't be afraid to say cannabis, cannabis, cannabis. And I'm like, okay, no problem. They're like, be free, be free. And I'm like, okay. And then a dude that makes the greatest memes on Instagram, abolished farmer.
Oh
He
yeah.
he hits me up and he's like, "You do realize that's mostly for politics." He said, "I don't think they were really meaning a whole lot of cannabis," and I'm like, "Oh, don't tell me that." I'm like, "Well, so
He's not you stoners over here. You stay over there with the pornography and the weapons and
right,
such. We don't want you over here. Not you. Not
yep,
you. You know what I mean? Like you're like,
exactly."
what? You're over there like, what? like, damn,
That's
bro. It's a plant. Like, are you this high
right.
on oregano? Like, shit. You know?
And that's how we were. But over here, and luckily I'm not that big of a following yet. That I haven't had any problems. Knock on wood. But I don't show a
I
lot
don't
of my
mess around.
gross stuff over here. It's mostly the interviews, so there's not a lot of plant being shown as much as there probably could be. But we
Sure.
are going to put a series on here, and if they don't like it, well, you just like you said, we'll be back. That's just how it's going to be. And it's definitely been a battle for all the creators. One of my sponsors alone, Atlas Seeds, I went to tag him, and I'm like, "Where'd you guys go?" And I go and I search through my inbox because I couldn't find him by typing it in, and I finally found the chat based off of what I said back and forth, and it was nobody there. And so I emailed them, and they're like, "Oh, they blacklisted us," and I'm like, "Man, this is
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous! Like, you guys
Mm-hmm.
can't even push your brand, and you guys are a multi-million-dollar company, and
Yep.
they're going after everybody big and small. Like, it's
Big and
ridiculous."
small. And like, you don't even. I have a friend, right? Shout out to Notorious Nectars. They are a cold press juice company.
Okay.
Juice. They take fruit and they go and they make juice. And Instagram's like, nope, nope. And
Wow.
I'm like, it's juice, bro. Like, just because I got stoner homies, you're canceling them? Like, it's
Right.
juice. Like, I'm
Yeah.
confused. They ain't no weed, no nothing. Like,
Yep.
so it's like, it's hard not to take it personal. Trust me. Like, literally, bro, last Saturday, I had my Instagram disabled for
Oh,
like
that's terrible.
second time since September, right? Because at
Wow.
that time I was working for an industry brand and I was managing their socials, amongst other things, was a marketing coordinator there, and um, my shit was tied to their shit, but it wasn't tied to their shit. I think,
Right.
and I've been watching it, bro. I've been watching it since July, June of 24. People get knocked. People get knocked. People get
Yep.
knocked. I mean, 10K plus accounts getting
Yep.
knocked, you know? And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I'm restricting, I'm filtering, I'm restricting, I'm filtering, I'm restricting, I'm filtering. And boom, they restricted my account, took the professional account and my Facebook. I don't really give a fuck
Wow.
about, but everything's
Yep.
tied to that. That's the only reason
Yep.
why. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my mama and shit don't even text me. She hit me up on Facebook, so I'm like, motherfucker, you know what I mean? But like, the thing about filtering, bro, is just like how I asked you about being over here, and you're like, no, be yourself. It's like, yeah, that to me, that's the best kind of content. When you start having to filter
Absolutely.
yourself, unless you're getting a fucking bag, like get your bag, boo boo. Cut out whatever you need to do to get your bag. But like, I just enjoy making good content. That's why I've been live for 3 years over on Twitch every week. Twitch.tv/Trey Strongs
Fair.
420. You know, I got a lot of people who be like, oh, what, think I left CLTV or something. No, I didn't leave. I just, Rob wanted to keep making the grow content. I was burnt out on it. I just
Yep.
wanted to vibe and chill and talk about, whatever may transpire through the day, through the week, you know what I
Yep.
mean, while enjoying our favorite plant and not filtering myself. And for good or bad, like Twitch doesn't hinder you like YouTube does, but you don't get any sort of SEO shit like you do with YouTube because it's, conglomerate of Google. But the fact that we have been on YouTube for 10 plus years, 211,000 subscribers, bro, fucking millions of views. Anybody
Man.
who knows anything about monetization on YouTube knows what dollar amount that is. And it's not about the
Yep.
goddamn dollar. My thing is the principle. My thing is the principle. We're sitting here teaching people about a plant that has been what we're doing, and yet YouTube just does this all
Yep.
day
Yep.
long.
Yep.
I can't. That's insanity, bro. That's insanity. That's insanity because until they flip that switch, they're always going to be like that until it's not going against federal policy. And the son of the SOB of it is when they do flip that switch, it's probably really not going to benefit me or you or anybody else
Right.
making cannabis content. More than likely, what I've known since running the grocery store and knowing that Bayer and all these pharmaceutical companies have facilities that are already literally waiting in the wings,
Yep.
it's going to go to them. They're going to YouTube's going to sell ad space to Bayer's 20 pack of Disty sprayed pre-rolls.
Well, that's
Like
like right
that.
here in town, you know. You say they have facilities. I know where a facility is right now, literally next to the strip club, and people don't even know it's there in Muskegon. And I'm not gonna say what strip club, but there's two, but you're
I
gonna
have an
go,
idea.
yeah. And I went there one day, and like I had to do a delivery there, and I'm like the girl comes out and she's like all suited up, and I'm like, what do you guys do here? And she tells me, and I said, well, you know who I am, don't you? And she said, you look like that guy from that podcast. And I said, yeah, that's who I am. And she said, you do this too for a job? And I said, yeah. I said, I do a little bit of everything, you know. I said, I'm kind of retired yet working. And she said, well, yeah, I'll give you. I gave her a card, and she was going to give it to her boss. Well, they ended up showing up to one of our events. Then that's when I found out it was Metric. But I was like,
Hmm.
right next to a strip club. How can you do that? Like, aren't you afraid? I don't know. It didn't make sense
And
to me.
they're absorbing it from what I see. Like I say, go over there with the pornography. They're like, okay, we'll grow right next to it. I mean, this is the thing. Just like all things, we're gonna have to coexist.
Yeah,
You know what I
you're
mean?
right.
Like
Yep.
I said this earlier to a homie of mine, and you might know him, Brando the Bud Tender. Shout out to
I know
her.
Brando. Yep.
Um, is like metric or caregiver or metric and non-metric, whatever the fuck. Legal weed, not legal weed. They're two sides of the
Yep.
same coin. Metric would
Yep.
not exist if the caregiver system wasn't in place before that, as far as here in
Right.
Michigan, really anywhere, because they base that off of whatever pre-exists beforehand. And then they get a group of people that have no fucking idea, never smoked weed in their life together, and let them make the rules for how to grow it. And so everybody in the regulated market isn't necessarily a shit. It's just they all have to follow these shit rules. Now,
Yep.
not that there isn't shitty people in either side of that coin,
Right.
but yeah, there was a lot of money hungry motherfuckers that jumped in initially, and that's no longer what exists. There's a shakeout happening. It happened when it first went wreck, and it happens again now when the market shifts. Is the people who got in, just like back in the day at the shop,
Yep.
I knew the cash croppers because they would come in with $40,000 cash, bro, and act like they were king fucking dick. You know what I
Wow.
mean? Because
Yeah.
they had the their two pole barns that they just converted and were making a good amount of money at the time. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Cool. I don't give a fuck. You're just another customer, bro. And I'm
Yep.
not saying that I'm going to treat you like shit, but I'm treating you with the same amount of respect as the 60-year-old guy who's dying from cancer who can barely afford his fucking nutrients. And if anything,
Right.
I'm probably giving him a better discount because he's not
Yep.
swinging his dick around and he's actually consuming his medicine.
Yep.
Same
You're
goes for
right.
metric. Same goes for metric. If you're a piece of shit who got into it because you wanted to make a bunch of money and not just for to find a way to cultivate cannabis in some regard for a living, I don't got much in common with you, bro. I just don't.
Right. I totally can relate to you. Yeah, definitely. I'm the same way. And I've seen it. I've seen. I've I've even in my early days almost became a victim of following the wrong side of the coin at first. But like me and my buddy Country Roots said, there's a point just like you said where stuff's got to coexist. It's got to kind of work
Mhm.
together for us all to enjoy it. Otherwise, it's not going to work because somebody's going to be always against the other person, and it just causes too much tension.
Yeah, and like I said, there's a future, and this is my opinion. I believe coming where, like, look at Canada, look at Germany, look at these
Yeah.
countries who have completely legalized. It's not the small time in control. It's not even what we know to be the big time right now. Like
Yep.
everybody, I got homies in Metric who went from like, 72 up. You know what I mean? We're able to make that jump, and I hope they make it. You know what I mean? But like, there's also, shitheads in the game. But guess what? When like Walmart and Elon get in the game, like you're snuff, bro. Like
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
gonna be as small as the caregivers that you stepped on to get there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, so live it while you can,
Absolutely.
and even if they re-regulate it, well, cool. We've already all been there before. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
but
Yep.
so but to me, if it goes to the five motherfuckers in power, we
Right.
all lose.
Yeah.
We all lose.
Yep.
The people who know what good cannabis is, the cannabis community loses. The
You're
consumer
right.
might win if you're the consumer that enjoys, not nothing against you. If this is your thing, do your thing. I ain't hating on you. Listen, live and let live. I ain't gotta hit it. But if
Right.
you're the individual who doesn't mind the shake, trim, pre-roll sprayed with disty, you will be perfectly fine in that situation. A person like me
Right.
who enjoys craft will not.
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying. I got a coworker. She told me, she's like, "Have you?" The other day, she said she's an older lady, and she's like, "Do you have you tried the Jeter pre rolls?" And I'm
Oh,
like, "No, I haven't tried them." And she's like, "I got this one. I forget what she said, what flavor it was, but she's like, it tastes just like a mixed drink. It's so good." And I'm thinking to myself, do you realize how much chemicals you're smoking just to taste that good? And I'm like, she's like, that's why I don't smoke because I don't like it. But this is good, so I like it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, they're gonna get you addicted. They're gonna get you addicted to the chemicals on it. Go right ahead, have fun.
that I mean that's
Yep.
been a thing for me, man. It's tough because when working in the industry, it was tough because I was trying to be a part of it because I know better to help the overall, but you have to
Right.
be in a certain position in order to really make a difference.
Yep.
But it's it's tough, trust me. I love this plant wholeheartedly. Like I love this
Yep.
plant like legitimately as much as I love my family, and like to see it what I consider to be like hoard out is
Yep.
tough, because that's not what it is at all. And it's like the Lorax, you know what I mean? You done taken
Yeah.
one thing and you've fucking manufactured it all to hell. And the fucked up part is it was fine to start with. It was fine to start
Right.
with. It has this amazing thing if you just appreciate it for what it is. But you've taken it and turned it into a piece of weird synthetic candy or something. I don't know. It's
Right.
just it's not what I consider it to be. So I still thoroughly believe though the kryptonite to that is education. The kryptonite to that is
Absolutely.
knowledge and telling more people what we already know.
You got it right there. Exactly. So I got one more question for you before we let you go here at the hour mark. And this question is what makes Organically Blunt the show it is. There's one rule to the question, and that is you can't think about the answer. The first thought that pops in your head, I want to hear it. So, with
Okay.
that being said, here we go. If you could smoke with anybody dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Okay. I've heard this question before, and I always have a hard time answering it because I'm like, so first person who comes to mind, man, I'm gonna be cliche, bro, and I hate that a little bit, but uh, Bob,
Okay. Yeah,
Bob
definitely.
Marley, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
me too. Me too. I'm not going to lie. Yeah.
like only because like before I ever smoked weed heavy, I like was way into like Rastafarian culture, and like
Absolutely.
cannabis is a part of that culture. It's like a religious part of that culture, you know, and just the stories he could tell, man, because it was so beyond his
Yep.
time, and like he doesn't know that he's a weed idol. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was just living his life, you know,
Right. Now his kid, on the
and
other hand, I think he kind of, I hate to say it, rode the cattail, so coattails of his dad a little bit on the
for
weed
sure.
side of things. Because yeah, he's great and he's talented, but I feel some of his fame came from his father's
But
idolism, I guess you'd
which
call it.
kid? No.
Well,
um,
yeah, yeah, but I don't mean to be
he's got
mean,
quite a
but
few now. No,
yeah, he.
no,
I
it's
mean,
legitimate.
yeah, but definitely, I met one of them here. He came to town, Damien, and I thought that when I met him, I was just like, man, you remind me of your dad. Like, I don't mean to be that way, but like, it's a good thing, and it's kind of a sad thing for your dad, but it's a good thing because you're making yourself be who you are, but you need originality too, and I guess that's where I see it. It's just kind of a
Are
thin
you?
line.
Did you meet him at Cannabis?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. My buddy introduced me to him too. He was like, "Come here, want you to gotta meet Marley, bro." And I was like, "What? How much did you smoke?" You know what I mean? And he introduced me to him, and I don't think he's putting on a facade too much. I mean, but like, get
Right.
money, if you can
Yep.
off your name. I ain't mad at you. Again, like,
Right.
live and
Yep.
let live. But
Yep.
I will say, I that only adds to why I would want to smoke with his pops is because even in the
Yeah.
couple of minutes that I had talking with him, like he had this aura to him. And I
Sure.
almost feel like it just kind of is in the lineage and it's in the culture and
Yep.
like, so I just feel like everything I've ever read about Bob or anything recorded is just like so insightful. And maybe he didn't mean for it to be, but imagine the like gems you could take away from a sesh with that guy.
Oh
Like it'd be
man,
crazy,
it'd
you
be
know.
amazing. Definitely. Him and
So
Willie Nelson actually share something that a lot of people don't know, and you can check it up on Google. But they both had their houses catch on fire, and they both
uh,
ran back inside to get their stash. I swear to
okay.
God.
See, that's another level. I love weed, but I don't know about that much. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And I heard this like way back in the day, and I on another podcast way back like subcool days, and I was like, okay, I got to fact check this, and I did, and it was legit, and I was like, man, that is something that they both had in common that probably a lot of people don't even know. So it's pretty cool,
Yeah.
definitely.
I mean, we can still have a sesh with Willie potentially. You know what I mean? We still got him around, so you
Yep,
know, I'm sure he could tell some pretty crazy stories as well. But
I
yeah,
I
I
can imagine.
that's cool. for sure.
Yeah. So, where can people connect with you and find you if they want to talk with you or connect with you and see where your events are going on and anything like that?
Yeah, so I mean, Trey Strong's 420, um, pretty much across the board, whether it's Instagram, Twitch, um, X. I'm constantly being told to get off of TikTok, but we mess around on there a little bit. And we do have a YouTube over here. I'm working on some other content, but I haven't got that, to where I'm releasing it quite yet. But definitely
Sure.
subscribe up over here if you guys are interested in some of that. We got the Elevated Chef over here on YouTube. Watch CLTV over here on YouTube, because we will be, dropping some more gens over there. And yeah, that's pretty much across the board right there.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. You enjoy the rest of your evening. And if you can't stay lit, stay organically blunt. Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks for watching Organically Blunt. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe up front. Shout out to our partners helping us grow. Seedsman Genetics, the pros you know. Country roots, soil, and grassroots too. Grow bags, get your turfs just like new. Gorilla Grow 10 kind, LEDs shining bright. Atlas Seeds, Green Wolf, keeping your grow just right. Just right. Extreme gardening and smoking storks so fly. Use code Organically Blunt.